Welcome back to your Stradivari podcast about the fascinating world of string instruments. Today, everything revolves around one element that is essential for playing a string instrument: the bow. Without it, nothing works. Let's discover together what makes it so special. It is far more than just a tool for drawing the strings. The bow is an independent means of expression, an extension of the arm, and has undergone a fascinating development over centuries. The differences between the Baroque bow and the modern Tourte bow, as it is commonly used today, not only show technical advancements, but also aesthetic transformations. And last but not least, they raise questions about material choice, sustainability, and species protection. Let's begin with a fundamental distinction between the historical Baroque bow and the modern violin bow. Early Baroque bows were generally shorter and lighter than their modern descendants. They have an asymmetrical weight distribution, primarily due to their slender, pointed tip. This replaces the solid head of modern bows and shifts the center of gravity closer to the frog. This has significant effects on playing behavior. The shape of the bow stick also differs fundamentally. While modern bows, since François Tourte in the late 18th century, have a concave curve, the stick of Baroque bows was usually slightly convex. This shape influences the tension of the hair. In the Baroque bow, the hair curves more away from the stick, especially in the middle. This not only creates a different optical appearance, but also a different playing feel, especially since Baroque bows have significantly fewer hairs. These structural characteristics bring with them distinctive sound and playing properties. A Baroque bow often sounds naturally loudest in the middle of the bow, which facilitates dynamic shaping. For example, the so-called messa di voce, where a note can swell and diminish in a controlled manner. The sound is less homogeneous but more articulate and nuanced. Baroque bows respond more quickly to impulses, are lighter in the hand and more agile, but also less stable. One could say they have less road stability. The tone is slimmer and more clearly articulated compared to the modern bow, while a Tourte bow produces a fuller, rounder, more even sound. The Baroque bow is also not subject to standardization. While modern bows are very standardized, historical models come in a variety of length, shapes, and weight distributions. This diversity is still maintained by musicians and bow makers today. Anyone playing with a modern bow who is curious about how a historical bow might feel can experiment by gripping the bow a few centimeters above the frog. A simple trick with a noticeable effect. Another important aspect is the material. Particularly in this area, the development of archery is evident not only in terms of sound or craftsmanship, but also in an ethical context. In earlier times, exclusive materials were often used for bows, which are now considered problematic. Tortoise shell, obtained from the shell of the hawksbill turtle, was highly sought after for a long time, especially for the decoration of frogs and ornamental elements. It has a warm shine and a characteristic grain. However, the use of this material is now strictly regulated or banned, as the underlying species is critically endangered. The same applies to ivory. This was also used in the past for buttons and inlays. It comes from the tusks of elephants and is a symbol of the exploitation of nature. International trade in ivory is now heavily restricted, and possession can even lead to legal issues at border crossings in certain countries. Musicians who own historical bows made from such materials are therefore faced with complex questions today, both legal and moral in nature. A topic of current relevance is Pernambuco wood, also known as pau-brasil. This wood has been the preferred material for high-quality bows since the 18th century. It comes exclusively from the Atlantic coastal forests of Brazil, a highly threatened ecosystem. Due to its excellent physical properties, high density, elasticity, and unique resonance, Pernambuco is nearly irreplaceable in bow making. However, this very desirability has led to a drastic decline in stocks. Since 2022, Pernambuco has been protected under the Washington Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, CITES. This means that special CITES documents are required for the international trade and transport of bows made from this wood. Bow makers must now prove the origin of their wood and that it has been legally sourced. The industry is facing the challenge of exploring alternatives, supporting reforestation projects, and developing sustainable usage strategies. A central role in this is played by the International Pernambuco Conservation Initiative, a global alliance of bowmakers, musicians, and environmentalists committed to the protection of this unique resource. A violin bow is a highly complex, finely tuned work of art. This pertains not only to its playing characteristics, but also to its material and economic value. In addition to the stick and the hair, the metal fittings of the frog and the screw play a significant role in weight, playability, and price. Gold, silver, and nickel are the common metals used in bow making. Gold is almost exclusively used in top bows. It is valued not only for its material worth, but also for its corrosion resistance. Gold-mounted bows are considered luxury items, usually have a higher weight and a special aura. Silver is the most widely used metal in professional bows. It combines robustness, elegance, and functional balance. High quality, but not excessively luxurious bows are typically silver-mounted. Nickel or nickel-silver is primarily used in simpler bows. It is cost-effective, but more prone to oxidation and less durable. Interestingly, even large French bow makers of the 19th century used nickel for some of their work, which, however, did not detract from the quality of their bow sticks and craftsmanship. Such bows still fetch high collector prices today. The price range for violin bows is immense. Simple industrial bows from mass production, often from the Far East, cost between 100 and 500 euros. Semi-handcrafted or manufactured pieces start at around 500 euros and range up to about 1,500 euros. Handcrafted bows by contemporary masters usually lie between 2,000 and 8,000 euros, depending on the reputation of the bowmaker. Prices for historical bows are even higher, especially from the heyday of the French school in the 19th century. Works by masters such as François-Nicolas Voirin, Joseph Henry, or Dominique Pécat fetch prices from 10,000 to over 100,000 euros, depending on condition and provenance. An original bow by François Tourte, the so-called Stradivari of bow making, has already been auctioned for more than 250,000 euros. In the open market, such bows are even significantly higher. France, and particularly the city of Mirecourt, was the center of European bow making in the 18th and 19th centuries. The French school set standards, both in technical innovation and artistic design. Tourte developed not only the concave bow stick, but also the proportions and screw system that are common today. Workshops like that of Guillaume employed several generations of significant bow makers, including Dominique Pécat, who became known for his powerful and precisely playable bows, as well as Pierre Simon, Joseph Henry, and the elegant, lightly built style of François-Nicolas Voirin. This lineage continued into the 20th century, with names like Eugène Sartory, whose bows are still valued by many soloists today, or Louis Morisot and his sons, a hallmark of French craftsmanship in the early 20th century. Bows for violins are therefore much more than mere accessories. They are finely tuned tools, masterpieces of craftsmanship, sound-shaping partners, and last but not least, cultural assets with economic and often emotional value. Their choice of materials, from gold to nickel, their origin, their historical imprint, and the handwriting of their makers not only determine sound and playability, but also their place in history and on the market. Today, when someone selects a bow, they are not just buying a piece of wood with hair, but making a decision between tradition, artistic quality, ethical responsibility, and often also financial investment. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in to the Stradivari podcast again. Subscribe and share it with others, and continue to accompany us on this acoustic journey into the fascinating world of string instruments. Stay interested. We'll hear from each other.